Hi everyone. One of the consequences of the Rosie O'Kelly channel being down from mid-February until late July was that a lot of people never saw some of the projects that went on here at the Rancho. And one very important one that I want to share with you tonight was converting the entrance of the house from a standard step-up entrance to having a fully ADA, American Disabilities Act compliant wheelchair ramp. So for the next 3 nights I'm going to be sharing a 3-part series with you, with step 1 involving the layout, and step 2 involving building the frame, and step 3 decking the frame and finishing the job. I hope you'll find it very interesting, because after I was done building the ramp, of course Jen came to the Rancho here, but I was also able to integrate that with some cement work that was done on the property too, when I had a guy come and do the connect the outbuilding to the pathway around the patio. Well, he was also able to build a pad at the bottom of the ramp, so it'd be very easy for Jen to pull her car forward and pull out her wheelchair, and if need be, wheel herself up to the front entrance. So I hope you find this interesting, because there's some very important design elements that are incorporated. It takes a little forethought to do a ramp. You just don't want to put a ramp on an angle straight up. It takes some thought about landing areas and all that. So without any further ado, I hope you will enjoy this 3-part series on building a wheelchair ramp. The first thing I wanted to do at the front door was establish the line across here. And you can see I have a chalk line there that's 4.5 inches high from ground to the line, and 4.5 inches high on that side. And what that'll allow me to do is establish my points where the decking will go over top here, and then I can worry later about placing a transition strip between them that'll help overcome the hump easily there to get inside. I dare not really put the decking higher than this lip right here, because then I have to worry about a thin edge on the material, and a thin edge is something that can go wrong and can wear down too easily. So I'd rather put a piece of transition metal between the sill plate here and the decking later on to accomplish a smoother transition. Right now I just have to make sure I have a very secure and an even 4.5 inch line across there to use as the reference point to where my final decking is going to sit on top there. The next thing I want to note is the swing of the door here. And you can see I have it on the end of the gate there, so adding a little bit for the setting inside of the frame here. I call it about 38 inches out there. So I need to make sure there's enough clearance on the platform that this door can be opened all the way up without putting someone in a wheelchair at risk of rolling backwards. So that's the first critical point that I'm going to mark on my chalk line here, is 38 inches back. What I've done now is gone ahead and marked that. I actually extended it down an extra inch to give myself 39 inches to account for fitting one final piece of decking material to go in, and so we don't have a gap that's created that things might fall down there by the door side when you're fumbling for keys and all that. That would be very inconvenient if you're in a wheelchair to have something slip down like that and fall down below. So we want our decking to sort of surround that area in there, and make sure that nothing can fall down in there. So 39 inches marked on from here to here, and I've also gone ahead and marked it on the brick right here to 39 inches, and conveniently that's actually where the steps sit right there. Now the next issue is how much room we need here to be able to back up the wheelchair to get the swing, and that's sort of a judgment call, and I'm going to fiddle with that before I make a final determination of how much room, how much length is going to be needed there. I went ahead and made the adjustment that if this allows for the door swing here to come in, then you'd like to have a 3-foot cushion behind to allow the wheelchair to back up some without slipping off and going down onto the ramp part. So I've now marked 3 feet from from where the mark is there, 3 feet there, and I also marked the brick at this point to accommodate where it'll be on this end here, the 3 foot. So what's actually going to happen, what it actually means now is the platform is going to come out to this point, is going to come out level to this point right here, and then the ramp is going to begin from this point and then come down here. So the next thing we want to do now is, since we know our ramping is going to begin at this position here, we now need to snap a level line from here all the way, set our batter boards down here, and snap some level lines here of where the platform is going to come out. You can see I have the batter board set up here, one sort of perpendicular to the other, because I use a little shim to spread them and put pressure on that to make sure we get a nice tight line here. And what I've done is I've run the chalk line from where our point of our decking is going to go over top of. That's a ½ inch below the threshold, so we can clear that door easily. I've run a chalk line all the way back to the batter board here, and I've fastened that on there, and I've made sure it's free. It's not hanging on, it's not pinching on the building. You can see it's you know, it's just barely straddling it there, and I have a line level on it right there, and you can see the line level shows a perfectly level position. So what I can go ahead is pull this tight now and then snap that chalk line, and what that'll establish is the point where the platform's going to come out level here. In other words, I want to set my stringers here a ½ inch below the chalk line all the way across, and then set the decking on top, and that'll make sure everything is really true running into the front door there. So you can see the importance of having a real level line. And then when we get back here with the 3 additional feet, we'll have the mark, and that's where our ramp down will begin. But for right now, I definitely want to secure this down real good, the line here, and then go ahead and snap my line, and then I can take off at the batter board there. I think one of the keys to doing a real good job when it comes to construction, because we want this to be a first-class ramp here. We don't want anybody, I sure don't want anybody to get hurt. So I want to double check and make sure that the chalk line that I snapped here really is true and level. And when I get my long 3-foot level out and I just scooch it up to the line, you can see the bubble right there. It's beautifully in the middle, so I know I have a perfectly level line coming back from the door. And I also know this is the 3-foot mark back from where the door swing is. So my ramp, the ramping part, is going to start from this point right here. So what I need to do is take into account how much ramping I'm going to need from this point down to the end. And remember, I'm on a slope here already, so that's going to make a difference, and it's going to take some more calculating to do. What I need to do now is snap this chalk line on the brick side. And of course, these we're not going to count on these bricks to support anything when we put anchors in. We're going to have some good footing underneath on this side to support, and we're only going to use the anchors to just make sure we don't have any lateral pull out in terms of the ramp wanting to come into the center of the legs. Okay? You can see I've now got that set up. I got that good level with the batter boards out there on the line level. And I went ahead and I snapped the line on there. And just to confirm it is true, I'll go ahead and snug the level under there. And definitely take a look. Carefully shoots that up there right underneath that line. A little hard to do this with one hand on the camera. Really got to make sure. Yeah, and I don't know if you can see that bubble in there. She's perfectly in the center. So that shows us a good line there. So what we've done is something very important. We've established two level lines coming off of the door access there, and we know now that if we just hit these marks at 36 inches that I have marked there, and the 36 inches on this side that you can see right here, all I have to do is come up perpendicular, and this is where our ramp is going to start. So everything here is going to be a nice flat level platform, and as long as we secure our stringers, or our things that are our pieces of wood that are going to secure the decking on top and keep it underneath of that line, put it on that line, we know when we lay half-inch decking material on top that it'll be all good. Guys, actually I made a boo-boo. A half-inch decking material is way too thin. I'm talking about 1-inch decking material. So what I want to do is simply measure a half-inch below the blue line on each side, and that'll be the point where I'll put the rafters on and our stringers actually that go across here. So it'll allow for 1 inch of decking material instead of 1/2 inch. And it'll still put that on a good level here at the door frame and allow for easy entry. Whew. Got to always adjust on the fly. That's why I always like doing layout first, because I can plan, think about things, look at stuff, and make adjustments. I'm going to be using a 1-inch decking, and probably realistically the decking comes 3/4 of an inch high. I use 3/4 of an inch thick, but I can make an adjustment once I'm on the once I'm setting the stringers across here. I can always make the adjustment. What's critical is hitting this door threshold here properly and integrating that. I don't want to saw off the existing threshold. I want to work around it. I want to do the minimal impact on the house possible. So eventually, if somebody needs to take that down, it'll be a pretty easy matter without having destroyed that sill plate there for the door threshold. So I've got the lines marked now. So this will be the top line of the decking. It's now 1/4 of an inch above the prior snapped blue line, which was our level line. So this is the point here at 36 inches back from where our door swing is. This is where the platform will end and the ramping will begin down to there. And we're really constrained by about a 10-foot length of lumber, the rafter, to do that comfortably. So I'm going to stretch that out. I'm going to put a nail in that point right there, where the probably 1 inch down to allow for, well, I'll put it on the top because that'll be the finished height of the where the ramp meets the platform. I'll snap a chalk line down there. I'll take it 10 feet out and see what that looks like. It's pretty much true, guys. You've seen a lot of ugly wheelchair ramps, but the beauty of this one is going to be mostly hidden behind the brick here, which is a good thing, behind the brick wall. So let's talk about where we are right now in terms of the layout. We have now defined the point where our ramp comes back to here. projecting off of the door frame. Then our actual ramping angle begins at this point, and we can either end it at the 10-foot mark there, or the 12-foot mark. So I'm now going to, the ADA standard says you should really have a 12, for every foot of drop you should really have 12 feet of run. But you can see this is a little more than 12 feet, but you know, this already has an existing slope, so there should actually be a longer ramp here, but I have to realistically see what I can accommodate here. And you see I have a mark here for where the ramp would end at 10 feet, and then I have another one where it would end at 12 feet, and I can buy 10 or 12 foot stringers here at my local lumber supply place, pressure treated stringers. So what I want to do is run a line. I have some cotton twine. I want to put a line between the point at the top of the ramp where it meets the platform and the two lines to see what kind of angles that we're dealing with, and try to figure out whether we can do the 10 or whether we got to do the 12. I don't know how well you can see the blue line from the top of the platform there, on top of the decking, down to the 10-foot line, and that, you know, to me, that looks a little steep. But I'll snap the line there, and I'll double check the angles on that, and then I'll go ahead and snap the second line back at the 12-foot mark. I can get 12-foot stringers too off of that point. That just means it'll project out here to this point here. And you know, I got to be careful, people. It starts to become a trip hazard on the property, and I got to close in the end of it so animals don't use it as shelter. But the upside is it may be easier to and safer to wheel into the house and give a longer time period where Jen or anybody that's is in a wheelchair might be able to you know, wheel themselves up. So the you know, the trade-off's probably worth it. That blue line you see now, the chalk line, that's a lot more of a to me it looks like a much more doable sort of angle than the one the 10-foot would allow. And it almost meets full ADA compliance, but you know, if I was in a wheelchair, I'd want the lowest angle that I can get. And the good news, this angle will also accommodate the ramp even more behind the brick wall here. It'll even sit a bit lower. Actually, it'll sit a bit higher. Correction, but it'll still be good, pretty good. I gotta favor functionality over top of you know, beauty, because you know, that's the number one thing, is the mobility. So that's the line where the stringer is going to be mounted below that, and then the decking is going to be cut to fit on top. I figured there'll be 3 stringers, one in the middle for support and 2 on the side. So pretty much just got a little bit more to do on the layout. I'm going to go ahead and snap this string line now, and then this has to be marked about 3/4 of an inch, 1 inch below it to allow for the decking. So that'll be the stringer mounting line. Okay. I am happy with the layout. I've established all the lines I need to establish. Of course, when I get the material tomorrow, the decking and everything, I'll do a little mock-up to make sure the height's going to work down there. But basically, I understand how the ramp's going to work now. And there's nothing like laying out to sort of help you visualize. So once again, I don't want to look like a professor here with my pointer. We'll be coming out the door. This ramp will come all the way back here, because that'll give plenty of room for the door swing to open up without sliding backwards down the ramp. And then the actual ramp will begin at this point and it will drop down all the way to an ending right here, which means we'll have to put a little finish detail on that quarter, some lattice work or something underneath it to sort of prettify it. So let's go inside and let's get a material list together. Whew, got kind of chilly out. All right, we've been outside talking about the wheelchair ramp, and I understand how it's going to work and how it's going to look on the outside. But translating that to the reality of a materials list is a totally different animal. And it has to be done in stages. I don't have a big car to use. I don't have a big truck. I mean, if Jen's vehicle was out here, we'd be all set. So I'm going to break this down into 2 stages because the lumber yard is really close to me here, which is good. Tomorrow I'm going to concentrate on building the frame out. That'll be the 3 stringers running down off of the main frame platform. And then Sunday morning we'll scooch down there and we'll buy the decking. And we'll put that on because we're going to need about 180 linear feet of decking. It's 50 inches wide and probably 6 inches. The 6-inch boards. We're going to space them close. A lot of people make the mistake when they build ramps and stuff. They have that spacing so far apart. Boom, 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 boom. It's like you can imagine driving all day on a crappy road and stuff. Well, people feel the same way in wheelchairs. You like to have stuff smooth. So tomorrow I'm working on a basic material list for tomorrow, and I'm going to need, I always like to have some 2x4x8 pressure treated lumber around just for frame out when I have to fit some pieces in here and there. And I'm going to need 3 of the 2x8x12 foot stringers here. Actually, I'm going to need 3 of them because I need a center stringer too for maximum strength. I'm going to need 2 of those that are 8 feet long. I need to build the frame for the platform, and I'm going to need some joist hangers, and I'm probably going to need about 6 of those bad boys. I'd like to get some angled ones if possible because I don't like to fit straight ones into the the joist hangers don't work good when they're great for perpendicular hangs, but they're not too good. It's impossible for an angle. Otherwise, we'll have to scribe those angles and then toenail them in there. We're going to need a masonry drill bit. We're going to have to sink some. We're going to have to do some anchors, some 1/2-inch cement anchors. We're going to need some carriage bolts with nuts and washers. I think the 1/2-inch by 3 should be sufficient, and we're going to need a box of 3-inch wood screws, and then we'll worry Sunday for the decking and all that. We're going to need about 180 feet of decking, and I'll go with an 8 penny or 10 penny galvanized nail, and I really need to pick up a scribe too to do some scribing. And if you don't know what that means, hang on tomorrow and you will see. So day 1. We're going to do the framing, and day 2 we're going to address the decking, and that should wrap it up. It should be, in theory, a good 2-day project. I'll set the alarm clock for early tomorrow to get a good jump to get down to the lumber yard before all the weekend warriors hit. All right, you ready to build a deck this weekend, or are you ready to build a wheelchair ramp and a deck? Because that's basically what we're doing.